Hello out there, all of my lovely city building friends. My name is Josh, and welcome one, welcome all back to Dead Man Streaming. All right, everybody, this is, if my numbers are correct, and I'm double checking this right now, this is, believe it or not, part 11 in this particular series. And I want to touch real quick. When I started this series, my goal was to show you guys how to get it in profit, and we got it into profit. So, now what? Now we're focusing on building, and I'm trying to show you guys some of the more advanced mechanics and some of the more complicated problems that you'll run into as you do your city. And one of those problems you may notice right now is our healthcare situation, and you may be wondering, Josh, why in the world haven't you built a hospital by now? You got more than enough money, you got more than enough people. And I have to be honest with you, the reason why is because I have spent a lot of time focusing on prepping this city instead of actually really putting time into growing it. So we've laid out things like advanced power, we've laid out things like garbage and waste management that were probably a little overkill when we put them all down. And not only that, we have done a lot of pre-planning, and I do mean a absolute ton of pre-planning. Problem is that pre-planning's come at the expense of the actual city and the actual city development. So it's time for us to put some of our lessons into play. When I get ready for a major city expansion, which is what we're about to have here, I like to make sure that I've got a good solid grid made. I want to make sure that I have our future designs ready to go and that I'm not overthinking how I want my layouts to be set up. And I know that I have overthought my layouts on this particular city. So let's go ahead and kick off the start and get some things rolling in because we are making a pretty significant chunk of money. And let's really look at what our services are to make sure that we are meeting the demands for our city that we have right now. Obviously, you can tell we seem to have an issue with health. I don't know why, but we do. We've avoided laying our stuff out around polluted areas. Let me show you. So there's no water pollution of note around our major water aqueducts, which would be, our really only water thing is right over here. Um, our crematorium availability is lower than it needs to be, but there was a change last week with a patch that adjusted death care, and it kind of hurt. Our average health is kind of bad at 59%. That's not good. We've got 192 patients. That is way higher than it should be. Our medical clinics are working as hard as they can. They are sending out ambulances everywhere. Um, Looks like our hearses are doing pretty solid too. So I'm not sure. I honestly really don't know what's going on. Now, we only have, excuse me, we only do have a couple of different locations for our crematoriums. So we've got one right up here. Would you unclick something, anything? We've got one crematorium right there. We've got two churches that are full up. We've got that up there, which I know is working as hard as it can. That's our other church. And this other crematorium. All of their vehicles aren't even in use. So 4 out of 10. But it's the medical clinics that seem to be having a fit. This one, clicked on the wrong part of that. So this has got 31 of 230 patients, but all of its ambulances are out and about. I think once we put down a hospital, a lot of these headaches are going to go away. But the question is, where? I know that I'm going to have a surge of buildings and high density residential swinging in through this general area. I think I would be fairly well off if I snuck in a hospital over here somewhere off of Kent Street. I think that's going to be the best place for it. And I think that may be where we're going to start with our development over here in this direction. So let's go over here to hospitals, take a look at our choices. The only two that are currently grayed out are the Disease Control Center with a patient capacity of 15, patient capacity of 250 and 15 ambulances, and our Health Research Institute, which doesn't even serve as a hospital. It just serves to increase your park's availability and our park's entertainment and our disease infection risk. This one actually decreases health effects from pollution, and it really wouldn't be the worst idea to invest into. But as far as a pure hospital goes, well, our choices are. Let's see, let's get to them. Our first choice is the General Hospital, which has got a patient capacity of 500, 30 ambulances, and a really big footprint. That said, I actually like this building a lot. I just like the way it's built. It reminds me of home a little bit. So too does the Modern Hospital, but it has half as many ambulances, which is not going to be our thing right now. And then the French hospital is a thing of beauty. There's a hospital near my house that looks like this, but 250 patient capacity. Finally, the Japanese hospital, 500 patient capacity, 30 ambulances. It's a bit smaller footprint than the regular hospital. Last but not least, the UK General Hospital and Infirmary, very nice building, but there has been a bug reported on some of the official forums as of right now that UK buildings are causing crashes and other headaches, so I'm going to avoid those. I do want to note today is, I have no idea because I never turned on my watch today. Today is the 25th. On Monday, the 27th, we're expecting a new DLC to drop. It's going to have new buildings. What buildings? I don't know. The last few DLC have all been dropping with new service buildings, so new rail, new special buildings, new layouts, and everything. So I'm assuming we're going to get some new big buildings. I debated even running a stream today, but I wanted to. So I'm going to go with an actual big standard hospital. Um, as always, we're going to try to follow our rules as best as we can. Don't put it directly on a main road. Don't have it too far away from a main road. I know it's a pair of competing rules. Uh, don't put it directly next to where you're expecting to have some large areas of residential, which would be this entire block. So if we know that we're going to be doing all of those things, let's think about where the best location would be in terms of our city development. I really think if we extend our grid out, um, let's say, if I were to sneak a grid line coming from this roundabout to this roundabout, which will put it near a highway junction, near on the same main line as another highway junction in the future. It'll give it fairly broad coverage leading up into the city and then over here in this direction with multiple access points coming into what we're calling the northwestish quadrant of Strawberry Dreams. And then if we have it here, it is going to be in a fairly centralized location. Now, this isn't going to be the only medical facility we built. Likely, we'll end up sneaking another hospital in somewhere down here once we get started building our ports. But that many hospital calls at the start of midnight, I don't know, something about it makes me feel a little concerned. So let's see what roadway is going to be best coming out of this, and I think it is going to be a 6-lane road dropping out of here. And one thing I do want to make sure, I want to make sure that snap to zone grid is off. So we're only going to do snap to geometry, snap to 90-degree angles, and snap to guidelines. All right. But we are snapping to angles. I do want to keep this at a hard 90 all the way down. Like all the way down. That's overkill. I know it's overkill, but it's overkill. Now is that 6-lane? This is also a 6-lane road over here. So we're good to just continue it right over. And we maintain our layout grid. It's really easy when you're doing these long roads to be off by a single degree, which will just, it won't hurt anything unless you are super detail oriented. Let's use that phrasing. All right, dragging that over. And then another 6-lane right over here. Now, I'm taking a quick look, and I'm thinking that we need to have a east to west 8-lane road that's a little closer than this junction right here. I feel like maybe this one should get upgraded. Let me just go ahead and preemptively do that, because it's easier to do it in the planning stages than in once you've, gotten through all that. All right. So it looks like we do have one spot where it doesn't want to mesh up. All right, let's make sure that we are even, though. We were not even right there. Okay, dropping it back down to 6. That's better. And one more thing that's happening as we're upgrading this, we are generating some extra income just as time passes. There's going to be a lot of times in this game where you're going to be like, wow, I need to do this, I need to do this. And the truth is, you need money. And until you have the money, you're not getting as much done as you want. So right now we are in 3x speed, just letting the funds sort of roll in. Now, we did a diverging diamond intersection up here for future development. We're going to go ahead and do a more typical interchange that's going to be really badly needed right about down here, and it's going to have to connect off of this road. I already know that. So let's go ahead and do that. Nobody's driving down here, so that'll make it easier in the immediate term. And we'll probably want to go ahead and have, some of this be a little bit more elevated too. So basically, in fact, we're going to want all of this elevated. It looks pretty cutting through the forest on the ground, but it's not going to work out best for us in the long term. So let's look over here. Okay, for this particular intersection, I'm really going to be happy with a single point. I wish we could get away with the T intersection, but it's not going to be our best. Trumpet roundabout might... I want to say the trumpet roundabout would work, but I always have the worst traffic problems with these. I wish I could explain why. They just don't take it very well when you want to level up that roundabout right there. They don't like it. So I'm going to build it anyways, just because. And then maybe I can show you guys where that headache is coming from later. All right, but let's take a look where I actually want this to be, and we're going to flip our guidelines back on because we were messing around a little bit on this hill when truthfully I didn't want to. And if we connect diagonally along the hillside, we can feed into, oops, that was supposed to be 6-lane. Feed into that right there. I think that's not going to be the most unreasonable thing on the planet. We'll drag another 6-lane all the way across. Try not to end up with too many super funky intersections. But suddenly, this intersection right here is looking to be incredibly important to the future of the city. Okay. And honestly, that'll be getting upgraded to an 8-lane. Especially since apparently I just ran it as a 4. Remember, always check your road sizes before you start laying them out. Boy, the city's going to hate that. Okay. Looks like we're going to have to delete a few of these. I think we'll be safe if we set that there. Okay. Now let's line this 8-lane up. With this, and then we're going to come down to this 2-lane. We're going to do this one at a time. Actually, we're going to get a little bit more complicated than that. We're going to go ahead and upgrade these to 4, 1 on each side, which means that we need to upgrade these nodes to 2. And we'll preemptively upgrade these to 3 because I know they're going to need to become that. If I wasn't trying to keep this as least complicated as possible, we'd build our own interchange right here. We may still have to come back and do that in the future, but for right now, this is going to be what this is going to be. All right, now let's get our 4 lanes again. So we have one 4-lane coming right up into that. The other 4-lane coming right down into that. Come over, change the stop light into a stop sign, and get rid of our pedestrian crossing. Okay. So if they want to go south, they've got a lane to go south. If they want to go north, they got a lane to go north. If they want to go east and west, they can go east and west. Okay. Yep, I know. I upgraded it, then I'm deleting it. That's life for you sometimes. Okay, we're going to take our 3 that's already up here. We're going to slip it down. Then we're going to come over here and we're going to do the same thing. And we'll just go into our upgrade tool and fix. But our lane is not mathing. Let's at least turn this into a 4-lane up to here. So we have a better chance of that 8-lane cutting down. Okay, and then now this is where I would like to turn this into a 3-lane, but every time I do, it distorts this roundabout. I'm going to show you what I mean. Well, honestly, 4. That it looks so ugly, and by all math purposes, it shouldn't. So I'm gonna squeak that in, and like I said, it looks gross. I don't know of a better word for it. It just looks kind of icky. Like it's so off balance and so terrible every time I do that to these that I just don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why it gets so distorted. It's just a game thing, for lack of a better word. And I'm not going to lie to you, it's one of the reasons that I don't like using this particular style. So if you watch this video at some point in the future, and you decide to be like, hey, I figured out how to make this not look like somebody threw up, please tell me. Please leave it in the comments. Please contact me. Please let me know. I beg of you to let me know. Because my I can't is so strong that we're deleting it right there. And then we're going to come in with our curve tool. Taking off all of our snapping, apparently. All right, it still looks bad, but we're gonna live with it. We're just gonna live with it. Okay, now we have the question of, do we want to continue the highway all the way down over here? Sort of yes, sort of no. I think I almost feel compelled to do so, knowing what I know about what we're going to be dropping in here. The other option, there is no like highway end that we have in our premates. I feel like there should be, feel like there needs to be, and I really can't wait for the asset editor to come online and people who are far more talented than I to build us something. All right, but I did want to put this back up to at least 10 meters as we cut across through the woods and then back down. Let's get our snap to 90s on. As we bring it back down over here. Okay, now let's correct this, get that off, get that in. Okay. 3 is going into 3. Okay, we can live with that. And did that give us enough room, or do we have to break a piece of highway segment? Oh, hey, cool. We got enough room to keep that going all the way down. Okay, and what about this? Do we have enough? No, we do not. So we're going to break a highway segment right here, right here. And I know it may seem weird to be doing this before we're anywhere close to coming over here to develop, but take it from me when I say it's easier to break and remodel this stuff just as you do it rather than waiting until you really need it. We've done that a couple times and it's really irksome in a hurry. Okay, and then we are going to fix this road and then we're going to set our hospital, finally. Okay, let's take a look. Do we want some extra roundabouts? I'm going to positively say yes. I'm going to do an extra large roundabout right there, a small roundabout right there. We're going to make sure that this is an extra large. It is. Okay, we're going to do a large with a tree, large. No roundabout there. We have a super node with a super headache. Super node with a super headache that is not going to let me do a 90-degree right there. We'll go as close as we can. And to sort of follow that path a little bit. Okay. Now, as we work on developing through here, we're going to be coming back through all of these annoying little intersections and fixing all of these stop signs and all that. That's going to take a while, so we're just going to adjust that as we get to it. Let's take a look at our hospital now. Okay, so a safe spot for this is really just going to be and note, even if we put it here, there's still going to be some coverage lapsing areas. Well, sort of. So this is what is this? This is our 8-lane. Let's not stick it on our 8-lane. Let's make a small grid. Very small grid in this case. We've got a zone break right there, so that looks like a perfect spot for it. So we're using our straight tool. One on each side. I'm not so worried about preserving the grid down in this area for this. I really just want to get it built. If we let it snap right there, we're going to be a square off, so I'm trying to use up squares on both sides. And what I mean by that, zone snapping wants me to snap it right here, or sorry, road snapping wants me to snap it right here. But look, if you look to the far right of that, at the intersection of Birdsong and Garland, there's an open square. If we try to scoot it over, it lines up with an open square on Pike Street in Birdsong. So we're just going to take off road snapping. We're going to cover both of those squares for the visual effect. And now, congratulations, we have our very first actual hospital. Now, take a look at some of the features. Trauma center, specialized equipment and facilities increase the chances of patient recovers from their condition. Doesn't give you a percentage on what that does to tell you how it's helping your patients, but it just does. It also says it's not connected to a road. Why? Oh, the entrance is the wrong side. That's my bad. When you set a building, make sure that it's actually lined up to the entranceway. What side is the entrance here? That side. That is the entrance. Now we can run a road right through there. And yeah, we're gonna delete Birdsong Street. No, we're not. We're gonna rotate it for the visual. I'm spending extra money that we don't need to spend on this, but we are rotating it. So we come down to our relocate building tool. We flip this around. There we go. That shut that up. Okay, that was my bad. Sorry. All right, specialized treatment ward, again, help citizens in the hospital service area remain healthier. We do want this for certain right now because this is going to increase the overall health of our city. I have no idea by how much. Right now, just putting that down increased the average healthcare up to 61%. So let's go ahead, boost it. And then we also have the option of installing a helipad. We are going to do this. Now, note, this is going to add an extra little bit of a circle around here, an air circle, where you're going to be restricted from putting a building right next to it. The good news is it's not going to matter because that air circle doesn't really do more than stick out a hair over Mulberry Street. We're fine. I am not worried about that. So we've got everything on this thing built except for this extra trauma center. And it doesn't actually have doesn't appear anywhere on the building that I see. So we'll just go ahead and invest in it. Can't hurt. It's going to cost us some money. Okay, so the medical helicopter took off. We've got 5 ambulances taken off. We've got now up to 31. So this should solve everything. Let's go ahead and make sure our districts are set, though. I do want it in Strawberry. I do want it in Bedford. I don't really care about Kingsfield. I mean, I care about Kingsfield, but I'm pretty certain that Kingsfield has its own medical center. And if it doesn't, it's about to get one. It doesn't. Let's give it one. So I think just a basic small medical clinic with 3 ambulances will be enough to handle things when we build in a small neighborhood up here. I think that should be fine. Okay, that's that. Take a look. Anything on this we can upgrade? It doesn't look like it. So there we go. If we end up having to come back and build extra, we'll come back and build extra. Okay. All right. So that theoretically should handle all of that. And while it did set us back about 20,000 an hour, we'll be a healthier, happier civilization because of it. Now, I've never seen a hospital in my life that has a parking lot that I like, and I'm going to decline saying how many hospitals I have seen in my life, but it's more than a few. So let's do something about that right now. We're going to run a 2-lane road behind the hospital with an additional 2-lane road splitting off. We're going to go over here to parking. And I'm just going to drop down a... looks like that road is wrong. I'm going to drop down a big parking complex right behind it, if I at all can, in this spot. Yep, there we go. And because I want it facing this way and I don't want to pay you to pick it up twice, we're doing this the hard way. Okay, parking facility. I'm actually going to make this a 2-lane road coming from that alley up here, and then I'm going to change this into a 3-lane asymmetric. Going up there. We can't turn that into a roundabout because it interferes with all the padding. And then right beside here in this open green space, we're not going to want to have a lot of traffic. So we're going to skip putting any buildings here, although office buildings would look great right behind a hospital. They usually do. We'll sneak some around here, but this street is going to cause traffic congestion, a lot of it. We'll go ahead and drop in the car wash on this thing, which will attract people to park here as if they need the help. Trust me, these things fill up fast, especially once we start building in. Then I'm going to come over here and drop in another parking lot in front. We'll use a... This time we'll put snapping on. We're going to put in... Very large parking lot won't fit. Wide parking lot, we can drop 2, followed by... Let's see, 1 medium. Kind of checking my options here. Checking my options. 1 medium, I'm going to run an alley. Down the butt of it. And then... solar panel lot, but it's also being picky. Okay, 2 solar power lots, and then another alley. I think I was looking at making that a basic pedestrian path. Let's do a small pedestrian street running right between the 2 of them. Overlapping items. What overlapping items? Oh, that's not going to fit. We are going to have to do a pedestrian path running down the center. Okay, that's fine. Take off snapping so we can get it lined up dead center in that square. We're good. And it would defeat the purpose to have a solar powered lot if we put trees next to it, so no tree decorations right there. That said, we will slip in a couple lines of bushes down that pedestrian path. We'll try to get that lined up so that I can sneak it as right to the road. There we go. 1, 2, 3, done. Okay, anything I can do about this mess over here? Yeah, I'm gonna sneak in. Now this is practically built to have another road coming in behind it. But in this case, we cannot fit. We can't even fit a pedestrian. Can we? No, we can't even fit a pedestrian pass because we've got these 2 bucked up right next to each other. So, trees it is. Can we even do trees, or are we going to have to do bushes? Yeah, looks like it's gonna, if we fill anything in over here, it's gonna have to be bushes. Okay, just a minor visual tweak. Okay, and let's take a look. Anything we can fit in this corner? Probably not, since we made sure that we couldn't. Let's take a quick peek at Tiny Park. With snapping, Tiny Park will not fit. Tiny Parks are the smallest thing we could fit. So while that was intentional, it is going to slow us down a hair. Let's take a look at trees. We can run trees on the road, and I think we should. Can't run trees on a 3-lane. We can go ahead and squeak in some more bushes, though. And... okay, we've squeezed in more bushes. Bushes on this side. Okay. Now we wait for the parking lots to fill up and this to become a traffic nightmare over here. Believe me, it will become a traffic nightmare over here. So we've got one major city service building down. We might be worth off putting in a couple of more as our income increases. I hate to say it, but what goes really good next to a hospital? Well, whether we like it or not, a crematorium would fit back here. Let's not put it directly against the road where our parking garage is, though. Let's slip it in right beside it. Now, we're going to have trouble fitting in a parking garage over here. It's just not going to fit connected to the building, but there is room off to the side of it. We'll slip in 2, and that extra incinerator, and then we will select Strawberry Dreams as our operating district. It's not really going to solve our death care problem for up here, but they'll, well, I was going to say that they would live, but by definition, you know. All right. Next thing to do. We're slowly increasing our operating budget. Now we got a hospital serving next to nobody. Question is, what about police? Our average crime probability is 1%, but there is surprisingly next to no police coverage. That's a good thing. Low crime rate means your citizens are employed, they're happy, and they're not running around getting into trouble. I really would like to put down the Japanese police headquarters. It is a gorgeous building. We can only put down one, but it is super expensive. We do this, and any of my other civic planning is going to go down the train for right now. And it's to the extent, honestly, where I would be happier putting this building in, knowing how much coverage it's going to have, and plan for that later and not do it right now. So I think that's what we're going to do in terms of that. Now, on the flip of that, I would like to stick in one of our city hall variants. And I'm sure I'm going to regret this on Monday if they give me a new one. My choices are the modern city hall, which is honestly a really pretty building. The original city hall, which is nice, it's big, it spreads out a good bit, or the Japanese city office, which is actually itself an actual small building. Just taking a quick look at this, and you can see the footprint difference. This fits in that much space, whereas City Hall fits in almost twice as much, and the modern City Hall fits in about a third. The one that I really like is, unfortunately, also very small. It is the French City Hall. This, to me, just screams Banana Republic. I don't know why that has such a strong appeal to me. It just does. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with the regular City Hall. The reason I want this is because this is going to be a good little grounding building for the city and the city area. This is going to be kind of a heart area of the city development. And I think it's going to make a lot of sense to have this coming in off of a highway, and where it's going to have good coverage for not just the rural area of up here, relatively rural, but also the large developments that are going to be sliding in down south. I want to say that we would. And there's another boost for this too. We're going to have -1% on our loan interest citywide. So if we end up taking out a loan for other developments, we can. And -2% on import costs, again, citywide for that as well, which is going to increase the wealth of the city as a whole. And that'll make a big difference with the third building that I'd like to put down. Um, Down near here would possibly be ideal, but much like this being a center point of the city, so too will this. Let me go ahead and because this building doesn't get a ton of traffic in and of itself, I'm going to slide it in right about here. This grid is practically made for it. And then when people are leaving City Hall, they'll be able to just either come to the highway directly or go straight down to our harbor district. And I think that's going to sort of fit in pretty well. Now, we drop that, and I'm going to be curious to see what that does to our overall city. The City Hall does have 2 upgrades. The City Court will decrease the crime rate by 5% citywide, but you already notice what crime rate if you pop back over here. There is none. There's 1%. There's 23 criminals currently. Now, on the other hand, if you're on the receiving end of one of those 23 criminals, you're probably not going to think as fondly of that. Here's a good one, though. -5% building leveling costs citywide. When your buildings increase from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, it's because the city has saved wealth. Sorry, the citizens in the building have saved wealth that goes towards that building's upgrade. Building gets upgraded, it's worth more to the city. You get more money from it, packs more people, it uses less resources. The higher level the building it is, the better off you are. The faster it gets to the highest level possible, the better off you are. And it really works out a lot. And this decreases the speed it'll take, or the time it'll take, for a city to level up to level 5 overall. And we want that. So that's 320,000. That'll be a boon. Is it going to be a boon we're going to see right away? No, absolutely not. And this building does have maintenance fees. Just dropping all that down, hey, it's 273,500 a month. That will eat in to our overall, but we'll start seeing some decreases at the same time in our budget. It's a perk. It's a plus. Now, if I was building a city hall in the middle of a city, again, it would, automatically have things around it, but let's take a look at some of our large parks. A large city park is not going to fit right here. There's no place for it. Multi-purpose park, on the other hand, still, it's not going to fit. It is, however, just about the same footprint for this building. So if we wanted to increase this, we could. Although, if you look at the back of this, it's already sort of got a city park attachment to it. The downside is it does have a fence here. Now, if you're using mods, you'll have access to one called the Better Bulldozer tool, which will allow you to delete individual parts of buildings. Again, it's a mod. It's not included in the base game as of today, the 25th of January, 2025. Anything else that would look really good behind it? One of these larger city parks would look great. I'm not going to lie. That gives +6 outdoor recreation. For some reason, the Grand City Plaza gives +66, which is a bit weird. I want to put in something behind this, but I think that sometimes a building just needs to stand on its own. And it's also got a pretty sizable parking lot over here. Something we could consider slipping in would be another government services building to have this be kind of a government services complex. So let's take a look at our administration. A citizen service center being stuck in right behind it wouldn't be out of place, I wouldn't think. So just like we've been doing, we're sort of free placing it and then figuring out where the road exactly needs to be. And for that, we're just going to come over here. We're just going to grab a 2-lane basic road, run it right across the front as tight as we can. Invalid shape. There we go. We'll decorate it by coming over here, selecting trees. Put hickories on it. And then across these sides, I'm going to run some pedestrian paths. Small ones, too, so we can preserve as much of the zone area as possible. So we're just going to have to go that. Actually, no, not yet. I'm going to delete that because it did completely wreck all the zoning over there. And for this, I'm going to come over, I'm going to load in French offices for the style that they have. So right here, we can load them on that. And I think 3 right here will be as deep as we can get away with. Although I don't know if French offices will zone on 3. And that's not zoning at all. So let's switch. Let's go over here to high density commercial. Should be fine. Oh, we could have gotten away with 4 through here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and lay out a 4th square, and then we'll just delete all these and let those fill in. Now I do want these to fill in, so we're going to hope that they pop up all the way. They're not. And our office demand isn't that huge right now, so that's also going to slow us down a hair. We have to finish this path. I didn't connect it all the way. Ew, it doesn't like us doing this right here. Why not? I'm gonna suck. Node fight! Weird node fight! Yeah, that's not gonna kill people or anything. No, not at all. At all. Wow. Let's... Okay, well, see, and this is another advantage of pre-building. Getting these service buildings down, getting these community buildings down, in case you run into a snag like this where this game just decides, is like, nope, this is too weird even for me. Then you can go ahead and make your corrections before, you know, you've got a pile of buildings or whatever involved. Does it mean though that it's always as cool as you'd hope? Unfortunately, no, but I mean, hey, sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. And sometimes you really gotta fight it. And sometimes you would have just been better off if you dropped this down a square, but hey, we didn't do that, so it is what it is. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll bring this down. To here, and we'll see if we can in any way connect this roundabout up to it without undoing all of our hard work. And I feel like we should be able to, but I don't know if we're going to be, well, not with the way that's set up, are we? If we were different by a hair, we could get away with it. But that's okay. What we can do, though, is to say, hey, this doesn't need to be a 4-lane road. It could just be a 2-lane splitting down here leading up, maybe. Can I exit that line? No, I can't. Okay, so I'm not going to. I'm not. I will, however, try to make it connect over here. But this may cause a traffic headache in the future at some point. Okay, we will live with that, but I will not live with this intersection as it currently stands. And anything we do up here is just, So let's go over here. Let's get rid of all those superfluous pedestrian crossings. And definitely get rid of those. I would hate to approach this if I was driving. I'm going to hope that the people who work in the city are smarter than I am. Okay, so I really wish these buildings had gone all the way to the back, but they didn't. Now, these French buildings, these French office complexes, you can see some of them extended all the way, some of them did not, but we're going to be happy with these. I think those are going to handle just fine. We're going to come over here, though. We're going to do the same thing on this side. Go ahead and get French buildings in here. French office buildings, I mean. And this side doesn't look like it's going to be quite as messed up, so. Wait for those to come in so we can preserve the zoning, and then we'll run an alley back down there. And hey, look at this. We've already got our first setup down here for some of our new area. Get rid of that. Oh, that one's saying it doesn't want to zone there, so let's delete it. Doesn't want to face the right way. Like I said, this is where it gets annoying, where it says, we have no access. Well, try building on the actual road. Seriously. How many times must I delete you, old man? Apparently many. So we'll just delete it entirely and then lay it down with a different zone type. Where it also is not. No pedestrian access. That sounds like a you problem. And then fixing that pedestrian access de-zoned all of that. This game, I love it. I do. I do love this game. Would this be happy if I just set a pathway here? Okay, sometimes you can solve that with a pathway. And with being that stubborn, sometimes that's the only thing you can do. Now, here's one of the problems we're going to get into the rare times on this map we're going to be worried about cliffs. The game doesn't do hills well, despite the fact that the whole game is built on a hill. And you will run into problems where respecting the topography is not as easy as you would like. And keeping things even just is borderline impossible. And you kind of just have to make do the best you can. And sometimes that's going to mean seeing weird artifacts like this. What can I do? I can delete this gas station. Maybe try to flatten that out a little bit more. Maybe delete the rest of it. De-zone a corner there. Sometimes you can flatten the area out and try again. I mean, like I think in this case, I'm just going to delete those three squares on that one and force it to rezone into a smaller lot. I think this one's going to be fine just having a sloping hill right here. Maybe what we can do for this building is to come into our surfaces tool and drag down, oops, not all of that, drag down the grass to this roadside. Make it look a little less obvious that mistakes were made. And not even our mistakes, just to be clear. We didn't do anything wrong here. And somehow dragging that over reset that building, and I don't know why. Okay, I'm not touching it. Okay, but that kind of helped a little bit, I think. That makes it look a little more palpable. Okay, so these offices zoned in, but we don't have a lot of office demand yet. What generates office demand? Office demand generates from a lot of workers who are educated, and we don't. We have high skill labor availability, and that's it. So that will pop up. That's going to be something we're going to get to. So let's take a look at getting in some actual, for once, some high density. Well, wait, we got to do something first. We know we're putting in a lot of residents in this area, and those residents are going to require a lot of schools. High school and elementary school both. We've already filled our college needs. We've still got a capacity of 6,000. University is still good, but our school, even though we solved our education crisis, and I want you to look right now, population is 60,000 people. Look how many of these buildings are schools. If my hometown had this many schools, I guarantee you there would be less unhappy people. I'm telling you that right now. Less unhappy people if my hometown had this many schools. We are going to need to fill in our school network down here. And before I forget, though, we are going to need to make a tweak to our rail network once again. So, where is this tweak going to come from? Well, let's take a look at this road. This is 6. This road should have been 6. It zoned as 4. Let me fix this. Fixing this is going to delete those new roads, those new offices, unless I have it off center from the first, and I'm just not going to do it. So those offices are going to be all really mad at me. And I'm sorry. That just de-zoned all of that. That explained why it looked like we had more room. And it looks oddly uneven, and I don't know why. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. I did not get that one right. That one's 100% on me. And it doesn't look like it's 90. Does that look even to you guys? Even enough. Okay, we'll wait for those to come back in, then we'll finish up a path like we had over here for Beach Street. Okay, moving on though. Our rail network is going to want to come here and go over. It's also going to want to come here and come down. And we've got to make this fix now before we do much of, if anything else. So let's see how we're going to adjust this. And I want to be clear, this is going to be for our passenger rail. And I do want this elevated. And we're just going to go ahead and go straight for 10 meters. And I'm going to work with the inside curve, I think. Now, it's sort of gonna... blast. That was too much to ask for. Oh, apparently that was way too much to ask for. I broke the node. Okay, selecting multiple. Sometimes when you have a node break like that where it gets super confused about what's its node and what isn't, you can select multiple pieces of that node and it might work. Yeah, that's not going to connect anywhere that I want it to connect to. So one thing is for certain, we are not going to want to have any residential along this 8-lane corridor. Or if we do, we just want it to be the ass end of an apartment complex. This is almost entirely going to be nothing but commercial and office buildings going all the way down this 8-lane. We'll get into residential up over here in this area. I'm going to use a straight tool. Eat up as little of that as possible without... Yes, it's going to overlap on that intersection. It's supposed to. It's supposed to interlap over that intersection, cities. I want it to. Even if we go up to, what, 30 meters? It's still saying we can't right there. Let me take a look at some of our other roundabout options to see if it'll eventually let us. If it doesn't, because obviously it shouldn't let us pass over it with a tree roundabout. Surely not. No. And we do want these to be roundabouts. What if we use smaller roundabouts? Those are very large. Let's try just decreasing the size slightly. You'll let me run you through an intersection, but not through that. Well, that just breaks my plans entirely. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we'll reroute this. Hang on. Hang on, this is a plan in process. We'll just carefully delete that entire section, avoiding hitting any of our roads. Come back over here to rail. We're going to jump over that highway. We're going to line up right there. We're going to wreck all those office buildings again. Developers are going to hate me. Or, well, no, we are not. All right, where do I want... Let's take a quick look, because I think that we'd be well off if we had a new train station down here. That was the one thing that I was forgetting. This is going to be a big station. That's the truth of this, because I want this to be something that we're going to be able to hook our harbor up to. Transit terminal. If I recall correctly, harbors cannot have a rail station that leads directly into them. And I want to build our harbor transit terminal. I'm going to double check myself. I'm going to check my math. How dare I do something like that? See, choice one is to just go ahead, pick a spot for the harbor, set it down, which would solve some of our problems. But we have none of our riverfront development available or planned yet. And that'll give us some idea of what we actually want to build around our harbor. You know what? There's no reason why we can't do that. We've got the money. It's not going to hurt our city to go ahead and lay it down. And we'll get back to the development as we grow. So, we've started a rail connection. We've aborted a rail connection. We'll be back to the rail connection. I know. I get distracted. I'm sorry. In fact, no, we're not. We're not going to do that. We're going to finish our rail connection. Because I do not have the time tonight to do a harbor justice. And I don't want to lead you guys on. Okay, so I know this is going to come down, and I know that I do want to have a rail station in this general area. I think I'm going to want to slide it in right about in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and right now get a 6-lane divided, 6-lane road that is going to slide in down here off of our major city interchange. That is going to connect to right about in here. And will, in the immediate future, connect over there. We've basically built a roundabout here, so let's put in one of those asymmetrical ones with trees. Put in a brown one there, and then a smaller, large concrete right there. Small concrete, small concrete. To be clear, roundabouts don't solve all of your problems, but they solve enough problems in this game that I sometimes go maybe a little overboard on them, admittedly. And I know we've already proven that, hey, Josh, you can't run a rail over a roundabout, and I know, which means we're not going to be running rail all the way down this way. Are we? We are. I was looking at the wrong street. Okay. Now, because I want this to be a really big rail platform area with some additional buildings, the rail stations we've built so far have been the basic train station and then the local train station. I do have access to a couple of other ones, including the historic rail station, historic central station, which can handle a large volume of traffic. It's got 5 platforms at the very start, and then the French train station, which is not quite as big. The central train station is outright huge and can handle 4 before you begin upgrading it. As much as I want to justify that, if we stuck it in, it would have to go in all the way over here, and that's going to keep it out of where I want some of our mass transit. Ideally, I'd actually like to be closer over to here, but we've got all of these roundabouts and major connections coming down this lane. The only way I could do that is if I go ahead and run this rail over and down here, which would still not be the worst idea in the world, if we really want to talk about it. This is one thing that I'm sort of shooting from the hip rather than planning, and that's not the best look, especially when I'm showing you guys how to plan. So let's focus on our historic central station. Has 5. I'm trying to just sort of imagine how many connections we're going to want coming in and out of here. While this is going to be, a major city focal, at the same time, how many platforms are we genuinely going to need? Are we going to have another rail line that will follow this highway? Probably yes. Coming down through here, making a loop. Almost certainly yes. Are we going to have additional going off in this direction? We absolutely are. So right there, we need at least a minimum of 2 platforms, looking at 3 as we build in. Are we going to have more than that though? And the answer is probably not. It's going to be getting pretty cramped down in here. That said, this particular one can be upgraded to handle commercial buses. And let's see, this one can only have a subway interface. And this one doesn't say what additional buildings it can have. Let's just go ahead and lay down this historic central station. We'll have it up here, which should be well within a reasonable range of our harbor and the additional buildings we want to include nearby. It's going to take it away a little bit from our major residential zone that's going to go up over here, but it'll have it close to the highway, and it's a catch-22, really. We can actually get away with 2 if we really wanted to, but we're starting to approach the limit of what's rational for a number of train stations. Because don't forget, we've still got subway to build. So I think just to follow what we've been doing and plan to do in the future, this is going to be a good space for it. And there's also some additional room behind it if we need to take it up with, say, a bonus rail yard somewhere in this area. I think so. That should fit right there. All right, let's go ahead and look at the upgrades for this. Okay, commercial shops increases comfort level, which we want. That'll encourage people to use it. A rear exit adds an extra entry point to the building and requires an additional road. Ooh, I definitely want to do that. And then an extra platform for more capacity. So we definitely wanted that extra roadway back here. That's going to be very, very nice for us. Let's take a look. What's our closest road? Well, our closest road, though, is this massive mess. And it's not going to fly. So let's, for right now, swing this, and then we'll see what mess we get into with the extra road lanes over here. All right. Now, putting this down here and knowing that our harbor is about to go in somewhere over here, we will have to plan pretty extensively for walkability, but not just walkability. We're going to be planning for some additional signature buildings we haven't used yet or really given a whole lot of attention to. So that's something that I want you guys to keep in mind for some of the direction our build's going to go into. Okay, I'm sort of looking for one right off, and I'm not seeing it for some reason. Where is it? There's a very, very nice large... Ah, here it is, the German department store. So this is going to pop in pretty much right across the street from this. And it's going to be part of our harbor appeal. So let's go ahead and drop it in. What do you say? For this, for points of reference, we're going to use our pathway tool, and then we'll come up and finish this actual rail line. Instead, while I want it preserved as to be a full 6 zone lengths, I'm going to eat up that 6th spot with the path. And then when we delete the path, and then we'll run the road beside it. Then when we delete the path, we'll have everything lined up just the way we want. So, to zone, to zone, to zone, get our signature building, or wait, no, get our road that we're going to want. And I think our road in this case is going to be 4-lane with perpendicular parking. No, angled parking. I hate perpendicular parking in real life. I'm not about to do it to the people that live here. Not particularly a fan of angled parking either, but hey, you take what you can get. All right, delete. Go to our signature building. Set it in there. Is that even, you think? Is it off by a unit? Is it off by enough that it's going to be offensive to stare at? No, I don't think so. I think that should be just fine right there. And we're starting to get close to the river, to the ocean front, which is perfect. Okay, so this is going to mesh up really nicely as we do our developments. But let's continue on. Now, the rail line connections for this are all at ground level, so they're going to have to jump pretty high, pretty fast. Let's make that happen. Okay, we're going to go for straight on this. And instead of fussing around trying to get this down to 6 point whatever, I want to make sure we can cross these roads so that we are looking at 10. But let me double check to see the length of this before we go up to 10. All right, if we increase it to 10 by the time, by let's say 150 meters for all of these, we can do that. 150, and then stretch it out 61 meters, but at least 150 on the up. $149 it is. Now, downside right here, if we do this on this lane, it's going to come through and it's going to smash right up against our pedestrian pathways. We worked too hard on those to give those up for something as silly as, you know, mass transit. How dare. We're going to use our continuous tool. Go ahead, though. Keep it straight at 80, and then let it swing up as much as we can. We'll do the same thing down here on this one. I wasn't really paying attention to where that meshed, though. So let me redo it. Okay. So we went over just about 100 meters before we bent down. So our first click is at 100 meters, and then we bend down. So come over here, go up to 10, scoot over, 100 meters, click, bend in, and hey, that is surprisingly even for Cities Skylines too. We might be able to bend that slightly out. I'm not going to try. You know what? I am not going to try. I got that nailed in there as good as it's going to get. Okay, now where is that northern rail line connection coming down? So it's shooting down all the way down here. Like I said, we are going to upset those buildings. Looks like we're going to upset more than those buildings. Looks like we're going to trash. Okay. I'm going to get this booted back up. This is going to take a second. So bear with me. I apologize. I cannot do anything about random crashes, and I'm going to see how badly that screwed us up. So I have no idea where we'll be. I'm just going to keep streaming. I don't know what to do. Crashes happen. All right. Wow, that was just straight all the way to desktop. Wow. Okay. YouTubers, by the time you get to this video, I'm going to try to edit that part out. And if it doesn't edit out, I'm sorry. I'll put a note where to skip. I have very little video editing software. I don't know if I have any. This is taking its sweet time. We do have to give it a chance to load. I suppose now is as good a time as any to pimp my other channels. I suppose while I've got you all here. Okay, so the good news is this is not going to eat up a lot of progress. All right, that's good. So, if you enjoy what I do and you want to go back and watch some of the previous broadcasts, head over to YouTube. And there, my YouTube link is right there. If you are interested in fantasy horror novels or cyberpunk urban fantasy, take a peek over here at my Facebook page for Joshua E.B. Smith. And finally, if you want to go to my website and just see literally everything that I do, sagadmw.com. There you go. It's all in chat. All right. We are back, and I will reactivate the feed. And I'm going to hope that the feed connects. Oh, that ate up so much. I'm so sad. Okay, we're back. We are back. We are back alive. And all of that progress we made is gone. Okay. But at least we didn't lose everything. So we'll redo it. We'll redo the... What we're going to do is we'll redo the rail first. Then we'll come back and add that building in a little bit later. A little salty about that. Okay, so we drag this out to 100 meters. No. 150 meters, I think, was our target. In fact, let me just go ahead and get that straight at 100 meters. 150, there we go. 150, and I drag this over. I do remember being about 62. Not that that's going to matter, but... Snapping to geometry, back on. Okay. Must be a slight little bevel here, because if we go up to 142, that's where that lines up even. 140 as opposed to 150. And I do want to try to keep it as even as we can, so we do that. Then, again, our continuous line tool, we come over 100 meters, go up to 123, and merge in. And then again, merging in at 123. There we go. We actually have that perfectly even this time, as opposed to the mostly even as last time. Now I'm going to save because I'm annoyed. Okay, and we'll try this again. We're going to take a look at our rail. This time we'll go ahead and snap to everything. We're going to swing down as far as we can go. And crash again. Wow. Wow. Okay. Just okay. I'm going to end the stream here. I've done the damage I can do. I'll pick up on this soon. Monday is when all the new stuff loads. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to log off the stream, go back in, fix that, see where that crash is coming from, and then we'll resume from there. So I'm sorry we didn't get as far as I wanted. I had planned to stream for another at least half an hour, 45 minutes, but it just didn't want to let me. So thank you all very much for tuning in to Dead Men Streaming. My name is Josh. I hope you had a wonderful time up until the very end here, and I'll see you soon. Hey everyone, it's Josh again. Listen, depending on how I edit the last stream, you're going to see some weirdness. Here's what ended up happening. Um, for reasons unknown, the game continually crashed every time I attempted to extend our rail network down south. The best that I can tell is that Summit Street, when this was all Summit Street, and Orchard Street were causing some, or Sunset Street, were causing some very weird issues with the rail. The passenger, the pedestrian streets were getting looped into the rail network in terms of the nodes. That's the only thing I can tell you. I ended up having to delete all of them and put them in here. And the reason why this is completely broken from the rest of the video is because I crashed twice in a row on the spot. And again, I'm going to try to put my splice in here at the end of the first crash. And it was just super annoying. So what I ended up doing was when I ended the last stream was I just sort of threw my hands up in the air and said, okay, screw it, we're done. I came back and I went ahead and I did get these rail lines connected. I'm not happy with this intersection. We'll have to come back and revisit this at some point in the future. Not tonight. I did get our passenger rail line going all the way up, all the way down through this, and I haven't addressed these roadways yet. I'm going to save before I even remotely think about touching them. So, overwriting our save. Setting it down. And we're going to try to reconnect those roads. Sometimes just destroying the nodes goes a lot further than trying to fight your way through it. And that's just what we had to do in this case. And for reasons unknown, that's not even though it should have been even. Huh. We'll delete that entirely, all of that. And you can see it in a case right here. This says this item is overlapping, but if you look out to see where it's overlapping with, those nodes are nowhere near each other. They're not connected in any way, shape, or form. But it's still throwing an absolute fit at that intersection for no apparent reason. No reason that makes any sort of pathfinding sense. So, we're just not going to connect that street together. We'll live without this street. This street is not make it or break it. I will go ahead though and reconnect it back up over here to get it against that other road, but it's just strange stuff like this, and I'm willing to bet if we come back and make any edits to this rail line through here, it's gonna throw those same errors. I also went ahead, came back and rezoned our office buildings down here, although you'll note that they're not using that properly, so we're gonna delete and let them rebuild. See if we can't fill in all of those spaces. And it's not going to rebuild them right here where these concrete posts are. It's going to say that there's no road access. I suppose realistically that may be true, but it leaves us with an empty spot that I'm not happy about. And we'll try to, because we've got some money, not to burn, but because we have some money, we'll go ahead and fit in some tiny parks there just for the sake of having something in those holes and not leaving the holes just open exposed with no development. It kind of makes sense that you wouldn't want a concrete pylon right in front of your building door, so I'm not gonna throw a fit over that. The other thing that I did was just to be on the safe side. I came up here. Now, a note on this station, it is 3 lanes going out. And just because we don't have anything over here now doesn't mean that we won't. And I sort of did a spaghetti junction, kinda. So one of our rail lines, where it comes over here and splits here and creates a circle, is now making a wider circle. Let's phrase it that way. So now trains can still come up and they can go over and they can go down, and we can have a closed loop coming up and around and dropping into there. We can also have a loop that's coming down now and it'll head eastbound. So we have eastbound to south, eastbound to east, eastbound to other east. So we've got unnecessary rail lines spitting off through here. We can delete a couple of this a little bit. So now it can head up that way. We can, we've got a connection that goes up into the train station. If they're coming in from east to west, they'll be good. West to east, they should be good. I feel like I'm missing a connection somewhere with this, but I'm not entirely sure where. And then we've got just a standard classic A merge coming down through here. But we've got enough different approaches that our city should be fine, I think, if not necessarily the cleanest connections. Coming down through here, and I just wanted to go ahead and get this done now in case of, more weird crashes or whatever BS that was. And I really just think that was because we were trying to go that far down south. And as a reward for living through all that, we've unlocked milestone 13, picked up some more development points and some more unlockable tiles, plus a cool 325,000. However, you notice that I'm not as excited for money now, which is the only time you'll ever hear me say those words. But it's because we're earning so much that the extra money, while hey, it's a perk, is not going to be the end all be all for us. All right, let's go ahead and get this all fixed up over here. And even though this is going nowhere and it's going to be flashing at us with a, hey, there's a dead end here. The city's just going to have to deal. So we're all eyeballs. We'll just have to ignore that for right now. But we have now established a big way for a whole lot of mass transit for part of our mass transit solutions. Later, we'll be coming up with additional rail lines. We'll go ahead and build these out next time we pop on because we're going to need to put something special over here. But before we do that, it looks like our next problem to deal with is going to be garbage. Looks like we're approaching the maximum limits of our recycling plant. Let's give it a quick look. And we are. Stored garbage is almost full. Processing speed, it's maxed out. We do have an ability to add an extension, and we can increase the processing speed. But we want to move things around, so maybe that's not the best thing to do just right yet. Still, one recycling plant for one whole city is nowhere near enough. We will need to invest in additional recycling centers, and that sounds like a future me problem. So let's get to future me in the future. Thanks again for tuning in to Dead Men Streaming. Sorry about the crashes. Sometimes a game crashes. What can I say? Oh, and I can say that I went ahead and put our German department store back, and that I might have spent longer than I want to admit fussing over it to try to line it up perfectly with this. Would I do something like that? You know I would. All right. Thanks again for listening. Sorry about the crashes. Sorry about the weirdness if you're catching this on YouTube. Really sorry for the video editing. There we go.